Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Future of Manufacturing webinar here from Discera. My name is Jessica Molitor Larson, and I am the VP of Sales here at Discera. Along with me, I have David McGoldrick and Aric Miller. Do you both want to introduce yourselves?
Hi, my name's David, and I do implementations for Discera.
Awesome.
And my name's Aric. I'm one of our manufacturing consultants here at Discera.
Thanks, Aric. Well, today we're going to be talking about the future of the manufacturing industry and specifically focusing on customers and how they can prepare themselves for future growth. We're going to discuss some of the challenges companies face, as well as some of the actions to alleviate those and thrive in this uncertain market. So to kick us off, as many of you know, or you probably all know, manufacturing is truly the backbone of the U.S. economy and really makes up 11% of the U.S. GDP and employs 8% of the direct employment. But over the last 3 to 5 years, the game has changed a little bit with continued strain in the U.S. manufacturing segment when it comes to employment, supply chain, increased inflation, and the importance of the digital transformation as a strategy. And that has come even more apparent. In a recent fictive study, 90% of the manufacturers surveyed reported one of their main focuses in 2023 was executing on a digital transformation strategy. More specifically, they wanted to leverage the strategy to better handle 3 things: quality, transparency, and speed. This theme holds true in the conversations we have daily with our customers and our prospects on what they need to grow their business in 2023 and beyond. So today we're going to spend some time talking about the top 5 challenges we hear and how to leverage technology to help. I'm going to kick it over to you, Aric.
Great. So the top 5 challenges we are hearing day in and day out from our customers that we're going to dive in today are supply chain volatility, the lack of visibility throughout the life cycle of a project, inflammation, retaining and attracting talent consistency, and future-proofing. So let's start right away with supply chain volatility. Over the past few years, it's become increasingly greater challenge with the backlog of COVID-19, as we all know. This is due to increased costs of shipping containers. Companies are dealing with longer lead times, higher costs, and balancing quality and cost at the same time. So understanding what your demand is and the lead time for those products is becoming harder to track, and in a manual process can almost seem impossible. So knowing what items you have on hand and what items you have that are committed to a project is very important, as well as knowing what items you can use if they are unable to receive in that original product. So I was recently on the phone with a client who manufactured machines, and they shared that over the past few years, they've had to find alternate suppliers for some of their parts due to supply chain backup. So they need to understand how many items they have, from which supplier, how long it'll take, and one supplier is faster, but the cost is higher. Another requires an additional step. Managing this all on a spreadsheet was taking them so many hours throughout the week, and they even got to where they had to produce an item right away, right on time. So, David, how have you seen this challenge impact our customers today?
In several similar ways. For example, substitutions and variants of the product. For example, with supply chain, you may have a product that was originally produced before COVID, and now is no longer produced, and you need to substitute it. And then you have to find another product for it and replace it. You can think of it like fences, like metal fences there. You have these metal bars that are being produced, and then you have to go and substitute it for a different type. That'll, of course, affect your cost of goods sold, and because of your cost of goods sold affected, you'll have to increase or decrease your margins based upon it. Probably increase if it's increasing.
Thanks, David. Awesome. I see we have some questions come in. I'm going to hold these and we're going to bring this up when we get to the product demo. Thank you, Eddie. The second challenge we're going to kick into is the lack of visibility throughout the life cycle of a product. How do they know when they're getting an order, if they have all the pieces? So when producing a good, there's multiple components. What components do you have on hand? What are the components that you need to order when creating that finished good? And understanding what that time is to be able to order those products and having that full line of sight from start to finish. Oftentimes I hear customers are printing off a traveler, a sheet that goes with those products along the line. And that's on a PDF or it's on a spreadsheet and people are checking boxes. But if someone misses to check a box or if they lose that sheet, it can really be impactful to that full end-to-end production cycle. One way that the customers are overcoming this is trying to figure out how do we add barcodes to different pieces of the process to make sure that they can barcode scan those items or do something to make sure they have that visibility. So I know if I'm producing something today, how many pieces are in what stage. David, what are you seeing when you're implementing customers? What would you say their biggest challenge when it comes to visibility is?
More or less their actual cost. So for example, when you have a product, you have a BOM, a multi-level BOM, you have all these raw materials that you're consuming. When you're consuming these raw materials, waste and byproducts happen. And there's an assumption that this is the amount that you're actually going to be consuming. And then you do the markup based upon it. If you don't keep track in real time of what you actually consumed and what you're assuming, what you assumed you consumed, you may not have a good idea of what the actual cost is. So, for example, I had a customer that was using this to build different types of products, and he thought this would be how much waste would be produced. But later on, he found out he was producing a lot more waste than what he actually was. With that information, then he has to determine, do I need to increase my margins? Do I have to make my process more optimized in order to reduce the waste? And because of this knowledge, he can now make a decision that can help his company.
Wow, awesome.
Great. And another thing we hear quite often from our clients is that because of all the disjointed systems, they struggle with poor visibility into product profitability, and inflation doesn't help with that either. So if a client is producing an item, they need to know, am I putting a component into something today, but it came in 3 months ago? How do I calculate a true cost of this item when it's being produced? So when it comes to inventory, there is more than just the cost of the item that comes into play when we're trying to understand profitability. So there are taxes, increased shipping costs, storage costs. So understanding the true cost of your goods is something that many manufacturers struggle with. So how do we allocate what costs are, where they're going? For example, we just had a client recently who had a larger order come in. They needed to calculate the cost of that order. But however, some of the components were ordered at one cost and some had to be ordered and the cost was higher. They were using an average cost method, but were struggling to calculate a true cost of production because their system didn't have the ability to use both the initial purchase cost and take in the cost of the first few items of that first few new costs of that item. So this was becoming a nightmare for their accounting team, once again leading to several man hours, just calculating this one piece. David, once again, do you have any examples from your clients you've worked with that you can share with us?
Sure. For example, hitting costs. People used to buy in large amounts products and they would ship it on over and then they would go and sell it. So for example, cups. I buy a huge amount of cups and then I have a shipping cost for it. Let's say each cup costs $1. If the shipping cost is high and let's say it costs $2 or another dollar per cup to ship it on over as well, so that's actually $2. Now, if I sell it at $2, in my profit and loss, I'll see the income coming in as $2 and my cost of goods sold as $1. I'm making $1 profit, but in reality, I'm making no profit at all because my actual true cost is $2 because of the freight. So if you don't consider all these hidden costs inside your cost of goods sold, you'll have overinflated profit and loss, and you won't know exactly what you need to do to actually improve it or what's being affected, because in your profit and loss statement, it'll just come as expense in one line and not attached to your product itself.
No bueno. Definitely. Thanks, David. The next one is near and dear to my heart. I come from a family of business owners. And again, as we all know, retaining and attracting talent is hard. The unemployment rate the last couple of years have been at historic lows. And so manufacturers joining many other industries who struggle to retain and find the right talent. I was at a trade show just a couple of weeks ago talking to lots of owners, and they said that's a constant battle. How do we find the right system to help their employees make their job easier, but also make sure the technology is easy to use and good for adoption, and that change management piece is managed, because they a lot of times are smaller shops. We had a group of machinists come over and they were super excited about the mobile app and went back and got their boss and came back over because they said that would save them hours when they were doing their jobs, as well as just clocking in and clocking out to different tasks. Right now they had to do it on a spreadsheet and then go to their current clock in, clock out system. And it was just taking a lot of time. It just was frustrating. David, what are you seeing when you hear technology, or when you're showing customers technology? Where do you see the biggest excitement?
Oh, definitely with the mobile app. I mean, if you go down to any shop floor or warehouse, you have all these stocks of products inside there, and you got to do your stock take and count how much stock you have on site. Or if you do a stock transfer, you got to do a stock transfer and record it. And either they're taking a tablet with a barcode scanner, or they, hopefully not a laptop, definitely not a desktop, down there to scan it on in. But with the mobile app, you can just scan in the barcode and you can go and do the stock take. Then it'll be sent to the system. And then in real time, you can go see your stock ledger if there's any discrepancies. You know, for example, was a product broken? Was it given out as a sample? Does someone have a new flashy laptop now all of a sudden? That way you can keep track of the products and know what's going on in real time.
Awesome.
Great.
And no double work.
Exactly. And then the last or fifth challenge we're going to talk about, certainly not the least important though, and this is pretty much true to any business out there, is how do we achieve consistency and controls to allow us to better prepare for the future? And just because I said future, that doesn't mean the future of 5 years down the road. This could be a future of 6 to 9 months from now, maybe your busy season. Having a process in place to ensure consistency within manufacturing allows you to better control what is happening and ultimately the end product. And then we can forecast for the future. So understanding how to forecast for your business and what you have coming down the pipeline for orders, it's critical. Preparing for the future also means who are your future customers? What technology is going to help you scale and grow? David, how do you see our clients today using forecast technology to future-proof their business?
By knowing how many orders you've had in the past and your estimated orders in the future, you can then input it and then calculate how much of these raw materials I need in order to produce it. This will help me be able to make sure I go and buy the products in advance, or make sure I have enough lead time to have the products in there so that I can do DIFO, delivery in full on time. It also will tell me, do I need to produce this in advance? Because my machines have only so much of a capacity. I can only produce so much in a single day. It's not like all of a sudden I snap my fingers and all these products just appear. That way I can also do planning based upon it to make sure that I can fulfill my customers' requirements.
Mm-hmm. Great. So now that we've talked through these 5 biggest challenges that we're hearing today at Deskera, David's going to share his screen and walk through how Deskera alleviates some of these challenges for our customers. Awesome. David, I turn it over to you.
And Eddie, I see we got a question that we're going to come up to here as we walk through the system, but how does Deskera software help with manufacturing forecasting? Kind of like we just talked in that last lead, we'll definitely get to that as we go through the demo here.
Sounds good. Sharing my screen. Can you see my screen?
We sure can.
Excellent. So let's get inside the system and take a look. So I'm going to go to MRP and I'm going to go to the material master. Inside here, you can see your different raw materials, your work in progress, your finished goods in the system. So raw material can be like a component. So for example, yarn. You have yarn, you buy yarn in large amounts. Then from the yarn, you can go and build something. So your wonderful grandmother knits you a wonderful sweater. So she did the manufacturing of the sweater and produced the finished goods, the sweater, as an example. So inside here, we can go and we can create raw materials, a work in progress material, and a finished good. Raw materials are like I said before, the yarn or the very products that you're using to produce it. Work in progress are like semi-finished goods. So for example, maybe the body of a shoe, a lid of a water bottle, a case for your, cases can be a finished product, but your wonderful chips that you have for your PCs or laptops. And then you have your finished good. That's the full assembly. That would be your water bottle, your shoe, your iPhone, and these items. So that way you can select it here. So I'm just going to go click on finished good, for example, inside here, you can put in your numbering format, your material, your barcode for barcode scanning. So that way, when you do your pick, pack, ship in our system, you can scan the pick, you can then do the pack and ship. That way, when you're doing the scanning of it, you don't have to worry about picking the wrong product by mistake. You can put the description. This is where you can put the landing cost. This is where you can put in the freight, manual, custom duty, value or quantity inside here for your landing cost in the system. And we have custom fields, so additional information that you may need for this product. Under the bill of materials, this is where you can add in your different components. So for example, we have maybe part A, part B. Just an example, different parts that you may have.
Smish, I think this answers your question. You had asked about clarifying the bill of materials. The bill of materials is going to be everything that you need to create that end or that component. There may be multiple bill of materials that make up that finished good, or a multi-level BOM that makes up that finished good, but that bill of materials is going to be, what are the things we need to create this item?
Correct. And we also have substitutions. So this is where I can substitute the products. So for example, if part 1 is not available, maybe part A2, part A1 can be assigned as a substitute for it. We can add any byproducts from this, so waste, any scrap, anything that is a byproduct of this bill of material. We have additional costs, so labor, expenses, and we have operations. So these are the different activities you had to do to produce this. So for example, assembly, you're putting a sticker on it, you're picking it, you're going and packing it, you know, what you like to put in here. And then you can put in the cost per hour, fixed rate, travel costs in operations itself. And then you can save it. Yeah, I've got to put a name. Let's see.
David, there was a question that came in from Elizabeth asking, is there a number or a limit to the number of goods that you can have listed within Jessica?
Not that I'm aware of.
Perfect.
Then from there, you can go and create your work order. And you can go here and add a work order inside here. You can go and select a sales order. So your customer sales has a bill of material that they purchased from you. So you can add it from your sales order. Or this may be just, for example, you're just going and assembling directly from the system. So for example, I have a schedule. I'm producing 5 of these or 3 of these or 10 of these, for example, on a weekly basis. Then I can go and just go select the product and do the assembly here. I can go here and select the location. I can allocate the stock. And I can do a bomb explosion, where we explode the bomb out and see all the different components inside of it. So inside here, you can see my finished goods here, my semi-finished good, my 2 semi-finished goods, and the raw materials here, our work in progress materials.
Hey, David, why is this impactful for customers?
I can see the breakdown of the entire product because, for example, not all products are just raw materials converting to a finished goods. There's several steps in between those to get there. So I may have different items that need to be produced and different items that need to be bought in there in different areas and assembled and done. For example, a water bottle. Got a nice water bottle here. I may need the steel inside the water bottle, so I may need casting. So I need to buy the raw material, melt the steel, do the casting of it. Then I got to do another process. So that's semi-finished good, the casting of the metal bottle. Then I got to put this rubber around it. So that may be another additional semi-finished good, or sorry, work in progress where you put it around it. I need to create the cap, the plastic cap on top of here. So that will also require casting. And I need the plastic to be cast and molded, and maybe multiple parts in here that need to be screwed in. So each one of these can be another work in progress product that's produced from raw plastic or raw metal. Or you may just buy the metal bottles and then assemble them all together. It all depends on your process. But by having this explosion, I'm able to drill in and see exactly where my raw materials are, what needs to be done by the assembly from one quick screen.
If there's something lacking, can we create a purchase order as well?
Yes. You can just click here. You can allocate materials, allocate substitutes, create a work order, create a job work order. And inside here, I can go and create a PO
Awesome.
for the explosion. Yep. Now I can view the job cart. And these are all the tasks to produce this product here. So currently for this one, there's coloring and glazing. I can just move this on over to in progress. Once they start working on it, and once it's completed, I move to complete. Yes. Or if it's canceled or on hold, I can put it on hold. That way I have visibility of what status it's going on. If it's on hold, then I can ask my people that are operating this workstation what's going on. Why was this put on hold? Was a more order prioritized instead of this? And I can see directly on the screen. I can go here and I can see the status, for example, in progress, and it's completed. Any QC status here. So if I want to create quality controls, I can go and do that under quality check. And I can configure templates. And this is where you can configure different checks. So based upon different businesses, there's different requirements that they need. For example, in steel industry, they have mill certs. So there has to be a certain amount of copper. There needs to be a certain amount of carbon. And there's also other tests as well as bending, stretching tests, compression tests to make sure that it's all in line with the compliance of that country. So by this, you're just creating the parameters and then inputting the data. That way it's saved and you have it, whether it's passed or not. So you can add a QC parameter, text, message, carbon, for example. And then you have carbon here, and then you can go and type it in. As a text field, you can add in number fields with a specific number, a drop down so they have to select it, or as a multiple select field there. You can also check for other items, like if it's a cup or a pot, you can check for any damages or anything like that on there as well.
Awesome.
All right. Now let's go on to forecasting. So this is where you can go and see your forecasting. And this is based upon your different orders. So I can go here. I can see, for example, finished salmon forecasting. So I guess canned salmon. So inside here, you can go and you can see how much you're expected in March, April, May. You can see here the available, what's available expected there, incoming, and the net here inside the system. And it'll let you create a purchase order, for example, if you don't have enough. Salmon, of course, based upon the incoming here. Yep.
So Eddie, I think this goes to your question. I think you had asked earlier, how does Jessica software help with the manufacturing forecast? Awesome. And within that forecasting, David, I don't know if we had that, but can you, earlier you showed the bomb explosion, are we able to see the different levels with that forecast? So if I need a finished good, can I see how much of each individual component within that forecast is needed?
You can see, for example, for this one, you can see the WIP, 2 inside here for that, and the amounts. But a breakdown, I don't think we have a breakdown, complete breakdown of it. Because for W1, I can see all my raw materials here.
Perfect.
If I go,
Yep, that's what I was hoping for, because you can see the different levels. Because realistically, when you're doing a forecast, you're forecasting for your end, but you need to know how many of the components that go into that finished good you're going to need at the same time. So if I make one end good, I might need 3 of each individual component that goes into that finished good.
all right, so let's go to operations. So inside here, you can go and create your different operations. You can put in the name, you can put in the timing, how long it takes. So drilling takes 10 minutes. You can select your default workstations here. You can select the operator who's in charge of the station, and you can select more than one. And if you have the cost, you can put per hour cost and fixed cost. So for example, does it cost $10 per drill, or does it cost $10 per hour, for example? And we can save that here. You can create your different workstations. You can create different holidays. Your operators are here, so you can create your different operators, so your different employees, you can say. And you can go and select your employees. So if they are in the system, you can just select them. So for example, Tony, you're now, what's it called? An operator. You can put the address, you can do the cost per hour or fixed cost. The fixed cost is per time or action. So you can think of it like a fixed cost contractor who goes in and does a repair of the repair of a fridge, for example. He may charge an hourly rate or maybe a one-time charge just to fix it. Scheduling, so this is where you can do your scheduling. And you can see here all my different work orders and the different schedules here and based on the different dates inside the system. And you can move it around because, you know, for example, your different stations will have different timings on here. And you can see a board view, calendar view, grid view, Kanban view inside here as well. Just based on how you want to see it. And we have a report. So this is where you can see all your different reports. Reduction report, finished good, component tracking report, daily consumption report, yield summary. So you can see this all here inside the system based on the dates. All right. Do we have any questions?
We do. The first question comes from, I think we already answered VG's question on can you generate job cards? We walked through that. We got a question from Thomas. Material planning and production planning seems to be a big issue in the industry. How does the system solve for these challenges?
Well, inside here, you're able to go and see your scheduling. So at a glance, I can see my scheduling of my products. With the material planning, I can go in here and I can set reorder levels. So that way I can know that if I'm going below a certain level, I'll be able to see it. And with the forecasting module, I can also forecast and see how much raw material I need. So using these three, I'm able to optimize my business. Hopefully that answers the question.
I think so. And then Tony actually asked, is there a way to see when I'm running low on materials and manage the PO process to order before I run low? So can you walk through the reorder levels?
Sure. So inside here, for example, solar panel, I can see the reorder level is 20 and reorder quantity is 40. So if it goes below the reorder level, it'll highlight in pink in here. Mm-hmm. And inside the reports, inside the automation itself, this is where you can go and have an email alert when reorder level is reached. So that way, if I click on here, I can say, once it's reached, send an email out to, for example, maybe someone in the warehouse or someone in procurement. And so that way they're aware. And when they're aware of it, they can go and start creating a purchase order. I can also go to the material master here. And I can click over here and create a purchase order directly from the screen.
Awesome.
From the pink. And I'll just populate my reorder quantity here for my preferred vendor.
Perfect. We have a question from Travis. If I have a customer placing orders on my website or third party, are those orders able to flow into Discera to know how much I need to make of a certain product?
We do have open APIs. So if they have open APIs, we can look at possibly connecting to them. We also have different apps inside here. So for example, we connect to different e-commerce apps. So for example, we connect to Shopify, WooCommerce inside the system, as well as Amazon as well to pull in the data.
Perfect. The next question comes from Jolene. Can we talk through what if I contract out manufacturers? So for example, David, if we've got a customer that a portion of that process has to go to a third party for, maybe coding or something like that, what does that look like for us?
That would be a job workout. So this is where you would go and dispatch the products. And then after they do their work, then you would receive the goods back and then you would have billing inside here. So you would add in the supplier that's doing it. You would add in the product. For example, part C, then you can go and put in the price for this. and you can then save it. And then I can dispatch the goods, meaning the goods are being dispatched to them. If I have enough quantity in here, actually, that's the product I just created. Okay, part A and B. Oh yeah, have plenty of quantity. Yay. Okay, so I'm dispatching this one. And then after I dispatch it, I'll just go select the warehouse here. Oh, destination target warehouse would be, so that location. Save. So it's dispatched. Then once they finish the work, then I'll receive the goods from my part C. And then of course I have to go pay them, my contractor. So I create a bill and I would go make the payment for this. Then after that, I would go to my expenses for my contractor and prepare a 1099.
Gotcha. Awesome. Looks like we've got another question here from Eddie. How do you congregate complex pricing rules that change on a monthly basis for overseas shipments?
Price list? So I would create a price list, I'm assuming, for shipments. And based upon the shipping provider, I would go select it. I would do a buy transaction. I would add in the product. This would be more of a shipping product that I would have to select here. But just for example, put in the minimum quantity, put in the price, and the date that it applies to. And then I would create this price list over and over again every month with the new pricing. That way I would know that will update automatically and it's applied to after this date. So for example, this one's called shipments. I go to contacts. I go to the supplier. And then I would select the purchase price under advanced for this one, shipments. And I would update that price list every month.
Awesome. Eddie said his company loses 10 hours a week on this. Thanks, David. Appreciate the help.
And very simply in the price list, we do have the import option. So you can download the sample file and just make updates to it every month and just import it directly in the system to update it.
Love it. Got a few more in here. Is there a limit on number of job cards we can have open at one time?
Not that I'm aware of.
Not. We're hearing a lot of no limits. We like that. Another question here from Thomas. Can you track scrap inventory, or can you walk through how we track scrap inventory?
Scrap inventory. So you would create a product in the material master, and you would call that scrap, and then you would add it to one of these products as a byproduct inside there. So, so I go here, and then I would create a raw material called scrap, for example. I would probably put it to a specific chart of account because technically not cost of goods sold account, but I would have a specific inventory account that said scrap inventory or something like that. And then I would go here, and then when I created a finished good product or even a WIP product, because you may get scrap in there, I would go to the bill of materials. I would add the byproduct here, and I'd add it as scrap. And you can see here, type scrap, and put in the units that are produced. Then I would go and be able to see it in my stock quantity levels here. it should increase inside here. I can see it. I should also be able to see it in my different reports here. So for example, in my stock ledger report, I should be able to see it coming on in. I should be able to see how much scrap is per warehouse. And of course, there's always, what's it called, scrap that you've estimated an actual scrap. So based upon the actual scrap, you may want to do a inventory stock adjustment, either stocking in or stocking out the amount based upon what is actually inside there or what is actually produced. And then of course, if you sell the scrap, you know, for example, metal scrap or iron scrap can be then sold for melting down, recycling, for other items as well. You can go and sell it there, usually by weight.
Mm-hmm.
So it can also be done. Or if you're just throwing it all away, then there's a consumption purchases.
Perfect. Awesome. We've got a few more. I think we got a few more minutes. We got a couple more questions. Can I create custom reports from Tim?
Yeah, under reports, you can go here. You can go to smart reports. You can create a smart report. Then you just select what you want inside here. For example, product sales report, name, quantity, and any custom fields that you may have added. Everyone adds lots of custom fields in the system. Amount, apply. For example. Then you can save it, you can export it, you can email it, you can filter it.
Okay. Awesome. I think we got time for about 3 more. I see a couple questions here. Jesus asked a question, how can I set up quality testing parameters to identify issues before I ship? And I believe Tony asked a very similar question. So can you walk through that quality control as well again?
All right, so this is where you can configure the QC template. You can add in parameters. Let's see. Let's, for example, let's see. And then I can assign it to a material here. Let's add it to so many products that we have. What was it? Sign. So you can assign it here. And you can always add in more of the select number, multi-select drop-downs, and then you save. Then go to QC template, it's added. Then when I go to work order, I can go open this up. And then I can complete it. Add consumption products, operations, where is it? So you complete the order. Maybe it's not showing because I just added it in here right now. Ah, here. Go with QC. Okay, let's see. All right. So there we go. And then we can go, so you create the quality check, so when you save it, then you can go and open it. The quality control. Inside there. Once you save it. This is another one.
I was on mute. I know a lot of times you have customers asking about quality control checks also when they're receiving goods. Is that something we can do within the system? So if I have components I need to check for quality before.
Yeah. So then you can go with QC and then you can perform it. Also, you can see all the additional information here as well. View job card, view delivery schedule, you can edit it inside the system.
Awesome. I have 2 questions from Eddie. First, how long does it take to implement? And will I have a support team? Aric, can you take that one? Or at least give a high-level overview on that?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, typical implementations are anywhere from 4 to 8 weeks. We do have some customers who require a little bit more work from an integration and data implementation outlook. So those can take a little longer, 8 to 16 weeks. And then each customer that signs in does get a dedicated customer success representative. So obviously you'll be engaged with our sales team upon onboarding, and they're going to be in constant communication with you. But then to also have that extra set of resources, someone who's familiar with the system, familiar with your industry, your space, they're going to be your sort of dedicated resource going forward. So a lot of help here.
Awesome. And then Eddie also asked, how is this different from all other manufacturing softwares and what does it cost? The cost piece, we can have Aric follow up with you on. Can we talk a little bit about the differentiation? I can take a piece of it. I think one of the biggest differentiators, I'm just going to jump right in, is part of one, customer support. As Aric mentioned, we don't charge additional for customer support. That's something that we believe all of our customers should have. And so we do have a dedicated support representative for all of our customers. So anything they need from implementation from the moment, and typically bring them in before we even sign on a customer, all the way through the life of that customer with us so that they've got a congruent experience all the way through. Second piece to it, Aric kind of just mentioned implementation. We all know that people cringe a little bit when we say the word ERP or MRP from an implementation standpoint. I think the stat is 80% of them don't hit their activation timelines. And so that's something that we're really cognizant about, is how do we help those customers not just sign up, but how do we get you live and make sure it's working for your company? And then the other thing I'll point out, and you guys can add anything you want, would be the user interface. As you saw when David was going through it today, it's really customizable. Adding fields on the fly and making changes to reporting is pretty easy. And that's how we've built the software so that it doesn't take a engineer on your end to be able to add fields or a call and pay a bunch of money every time you want to make changes. Anything you guys would add?
I would second that. And even going into the mobile application, right? When we're hiring new employees, bringing new employees in and training them, it really is a user-friendly interface. And it just makes that whole training aspect, getting people up and running faster. And then also to hit home back on the customer success part, when you are dedicated that resource, they're going to be your go-to contact, like Jesse mentioned, forever. So they're going to be familiar with your system. There's going to be a relationship built. So it's going to be, a really seamless process working with them with whatever you're hoping to get done.
Awesome. I think we got the majority of the questions. Thank you all for joining us today. Any questions you have, you can reach out to myself. You can reach out to Aric or anyone on the Deskera team. Or if you want to just deep dive, one of the goals is to understand your process and walk you through what it would look like in whatever your manufacturing scenario is. So thank you all. Have a good afternoon. Enjoy the rest of your lunch. And hopefully we'll be talking soon.
Thanks, guys.
Happy Tuesday.